Welcome to the state of survival. Many survival games are often clouded behind a veil of secrecy while they're in development, but Nightingale was made by devs that took a page from Baldur's Gate 3 and had the fanbase and players involved since day one. But has that made the early access a success or a flop? From the first trailer I saw, I fell in love with the steampunk aesthetics of it. That's one thing I don't think gets enough love in TV or games. And when I watched shows like Carnival Row, I didn't realize I had a need for it until I saw Nightingale. But the world feels a lot like Wonderland. But does the game hold up visually and mechanically?
Well, I would say visually, it's pretty nice looking game. Would I say it's the best realistic graphics I've seen out there? No. But honestly, the game is very smooth. I didn't see any major issues. And the textures, even up close and personal, really hit home. And it felt like a lot of the models were actually made by them or altered by them enough that it didn't look like a copy and paste or they just got them from the Unreal Market, which was actually really refreshing.
First of all, you're absolutely right about the models. This game, people might play it and go, the graphics aren't even that realistic. But kind of like when World of Warcraft came out back in '04, it's an art style. It's a decision that they made. And it's not like the game is ugly. I see a lot of influences from
No.
No Man's Sky in their creature creations. But things that you may find that don't look realistic, it still matches the art style they went through. And I know you mentioned that it looks like they did a lot of the model work on, but man, what was I mean, what
Yeah.
did you think of the combat and the survival mechanics? Because that took me by surprise.
I think the survival mechanics and the combat kind of meshed really well together. I felt like as I was exploring, I almost always had something trying to go after me. And when I didn't have something going after me, I was looking for something to go after.
I love it. I love everything about the way they meshed it all. And at first I thought, well, maybe the combat's simple because the melee combat was really simple. Oh no, goblins are attacking me in the swamp biome in the tutorial. Block, block, block. I could block and take no damage. It does degrade the quality of my tool, but at the same time, the combat was good enough. I was hopping around. I struggled with it until I told myself, treat it like an FPS. And not like a slow,
Hmm.
methodical, realistic FPS like DayZ. I thought to myself, let's treat it like Halo. So when I got my first sling
Ah.
bow and I was trying to learn how it worked, it's very much a game where it encourages you to jump, shoot, and be as crazy as you can. So eat your food because not having
And
stamina is
marbles?
terrible.
And marbles for ammo? Come on, that was awesome. I'm all
That
like,
was
and I can
awesome.
make magical marbles?
I know that guns are a big part of it because I've seen the guns,
Ooh.
in the trailer. And just knowing how the slingshot fires has me confident that the gunplay is probably going to be some of the best parts.
Definitely, definitely. But before we move on, I do have a question for you developers. When did you add so much sass to Punk? What version of Puck got that
Puck,
sass?
right? He kind of, and I love that because Puck, if anybody who knows Shakespeare and, a lot of those fairy type stories in the past, he's like a little bit of Tinkerbell. He's got a lot of that, like the Pan from Greek mythology. I love how bitter he is. I love it. Headed by veteran game giants such as Aaron Flynn, this game has the essence of a triple A title with great storytelling packaged in a genre different than any that they have tackled before, especially since survival games aren't always known to have a really great story or deep lore.
The Nightingale storyline really gives you a premise of, hey, you're one of the people who got trapped in these realm areas, and now you're a lost person. You're not a realm walker. You didn't even know anything about realms until Puck started talking to you. And that's what gives the game a lot of good premise and gives you the reason to keep exploring these realms further and further. Because the end game, from what I can tell from Puck telling us, is that he's trying to guide us to Nightingale, and he's telling us we're going to have to weave through all these realms to eventually get to our end goal. But what's cool about this game is that I love the little snippets of lore you find around the game. And there are
Mhm.
musical notes you find in the wilderness or in abandoned camps. And that is so cool. Not to mention, sometimes you run into NPCs who need help building, defending, or just have a story to share. And I enjoy that in this game.
You're right, and I love the way that the lore is introduced into this game because really the lore is fed to you in three phases. One, it starts off with your character origin. So you get to choose a character origin, not really a profession or a class in the sense of, oh, a paladin or warrior, more like a class of life. And then you get to choose the difficulty. So if you're very well, I was a soldier, you could be a really prepared soldier with a backpack and tools and weapons, but that's the easiest setting. The middle setting, you're just a
Oh.
normal military officer. The third setting, you're a civilian officer. So you're only military by name, not by actual experience. And the hardest difficulty, you're a military officer that has woken up in his underwear and teleported into the Nightingale. But it's
Doing your
so
skivvies.
cool. In your skivvies, you're just running around in this gray underwear with nothing. You start out with lower
Aw.
health and stuff. It's really cool. The second way the game is introduced to plot would be Puck. He's kind of like your narrator. And the moment you meet Puck, he's like, I know you know what the Nightingale is. I know you know what magic is. You humans have used it for years, but I need your help. There's a big bad I need to fight, and only humans can help me because you are the ingenuitive ones. When you master magic
Mm.
and magic does everything for you, ingenuity goes out the window. And that's why humans are important. And you're like, okay, but on that tutorial he gives you, he's kind of mischievous. He doesn't just take you where you need to go, he makes you earn it. And it's frustrating. It's so frustrating. So the entire time you're like, is this guy on the up and up? Is he for real? And then that's when you come into the third piece of lore implementation. Like you said, the notes, the logs. I love how every journal page and every note looks different. Sometimes they're letters,
Mhm.
sometimes they're books, sometimes they're scrolls, sometimes they're scrawled on to a rock. I found one like that. The notes and the NPCs you find where they're like, yeah, we've been a realm walker. I'm a news reporter and I'm here. It's like, why do you care about the news when Earth, essentially, from our understanding, was basically made unlivable? And it's through the notes of the NPCs that you realize that as mischievous as Puck is, he is honest when he needs your help, but he makes you earn his respect before he turns you on the big bads. And I got to tell you, at first I was like, oh, this game's a snooze fest. It's so easy. But the further you get into it, especially when you have to go to your first major dungeon, it's like, no, you need Puck.
There is something Puck says near the end of the tutorial that makes me wonder if you're not the first person he's tried to rely upon, because he gives you a some tools, and he literally says the person who had them before was a realm walker, and he doesn't need them anymore. So I wonder if he enlisted the help of a realm walker, and they died, and he just took their stuff and gave it to another.
I was wondering that too, but it also seems like the NPCs have had dealings with Puck before. I
Oh.
kind of got the context from when I was talking to the reporter that not all of the Fae are evil, and they talk about getting assistance from them, which I think Puck is the only one who comes out to greet a human and is like, oh, hello. But man, did they capture the mysticism of Tim Burton's Wonderland and not knowing who to trust? Because I kind of got the feeling that the more obvious benevolent face may actually be the most malevolent. And it's phenomenal how they've done it. Um,
Yeah, and
and the scenery.
oh yeah.
What was your favorite thing that you encountered that looked like it was built by humans?
I would have to say the favorite thing I have encountered was a abandoned settlement. And I'm talking about they had at the start of plaster walls. Some of the other buildings looked like they were a little bit more run down. There's an outhouse. Like it looked like a family came here and was all like, well, we can't get back to Earth, so let's go ahead and start building here. Which makes me wonder if time passes the same in all the realms.
While many game developers spoke out against the launch of Baldur's Gate 3, stating it was impossible and unrealistic to expect games to launch like that, it seems like the team of Inflection, maybe it could be because of their past veterancy with BioWare, but it seemed like they're approaching it the way Larian Studios did. They've even vocally said as much that they are going to mimic the development of Baldur's Gate 3. They've had players' feedback and development since day one of launch. This was something you and I mentioned that games needed before, and I was thrilled to hear it.
I totally agree, and I can't wait to see what more they give us and what more they have in the future for content patches. And the fact that they are willing to listen to feedback and respond to important issues like disconnects. And in their community update video, they explain exactly why they were having so many disconnects and how they fixed the problem, which to many people may go over their head. But as a person who enjoys tech, I really enjoyed the fact that they were willing to tell people, hey, this is what we were using. It failed us, this is what we moved to, which is the same system as Fortnite when it comes to their handshake process in the background for connections, and it's working beautifully. We've solved that on the root cause of this issue. Boom. That's what more studios need to do. Like you said, open and transparent is important to us
Yeah,
players.
there was even a YouTube video they released 12 days ago where they apologized for how some of the mechanics were broken at launch on February 20th for the early access, and that there were a lot of exploits. And they said, "We are sorry. That's on us. We fixed the exploits. We're working on the mechanics. We've made the game more stable now, but we also want to implement new features because a lot of the rough edges of the mechanics are because we haven't installed certain mechanics we want to. So we're going to continue doing that. We're going to work on these bugs, and we apologize, but it's going to take us a longer time to work on the bugs because we're juggling multiple hats." And folks, if go look at the Inflexion videos about NightinGale on YouTube, I just feel like it's such an honest chat. It's like a campfire chat, but not like a Blizzard campfire chat where they're making fun of the players and saying it's your fault. All accountability rests on them, and it's so refreshing. Now, we have a question for our community with everything going on. While survival games are dominated by smaller development companies, would AAA companies developing survival games be good for the genre? But that's all we have here at State of Survival. Thank you so much, folks. If you haven't checked out NightinGale, I highly recommend it. It's on early access. And I just want to give huge thanks to my co host here, Dump Gras, and our producer, Red Falcon, for all the hard work they put in. And we will see you all the next time. Bye bye.